short interview. So, William, what's your background and why are you interested in small business?
When I was in business, I was I think the interest of most was turning companies round. It's a particular art where you have to look from the bottom upwards and see what the good and bad points in any company. Just recently I've just completed 4 chapters for a new book that I'm co-authoring, and it was about companies and small businesses. Small businesses are particularly interesting because whereas large companies tend to be shedding people, small companies have made it up and they represent a huge proportion of the growth of employment in the United States and probably here also.
Do you, how many years have you spent turning around small businesses?
They tended to be slightly bigger businesses that I was involved in, but the principle is the same. I suppose from, 1965 until 1985, something like that.
And so why do you think small businesses are in particular peril now?
Well, obviously the recession is reducing people's spending power, so the actual revenue that a small business would generate is much less, and I suspect this is not going to get better than worse. The other factor in the United States is that the proposed medical insurance is going to add considerable cost to a small business, which I suspect will put out a number of them out of work. In this country, the real problem is, I suspect, over-regulation between the EU and the present government. I looked at the various factors that a small business would have to overcome before it opened its doors, and it covered 1.5 pages of A4 double-spaced.
Wow.
That's a major drawback to anybody starting.
So now, how should small businesses be thinking about the future, and what particular assets do they have?
Their prime assets are their customer base, and what they could do to actually provide services or goods to that customer base. For example, a small shop would have really quite a big customer base. If you happen to be selling a general range of sort of tobacco, confectionery, knickknacks, papers, magazines, that sort of thing, you'd probably have really quite a big customer base. The cost per purchase wouldn't be particularly great, but it would be a particularly, it could be really quite large, especially in a small community. That to me would be the prime asset that they would have.
Can you give an example of that? Or?
Well, I think if I was running a small corner shop and was the revenue was reduced, I had to pay for the stock, the inventory, and I would be finding quite difficult, especially if I had to pay interest or mortgage on the shop. I'd be thinking upon the lines of how can I use their customer base in a different way. There is a very interesting, to me, a program. It's called LETS. You can get it on the web, but it's the local exchange and trading system, started by a chap called Michael Linton in British Columbia. The idea being to keep revenue and business within the community. It's say a dying community. How can you actually get people together so that they not only know each other but can also trade in each other, because there are lots of different skills in a community. Now, what he does is to suggest that people produce a catalogue. So, for example, this could range, and also he produces a new currency. In America it would be the green dollars, here it would be the green pound. And so that if you, for example,
Yeah.
happen to be a teacher in French, let's say, or for remedial work for pupils wanting to move on in school, then you would charge rather more than somebody who wanted to just offer babysitting. So there is a certain rate per hour in green pounds, green dollars, which was in its directory. So that if, let's say, I wanted my son to be coached by you, I would agree X number of hours in green pounds, and at the completion of the exercise, we both sign a form, this has been completed, go on a little central computer, you would be credited with X number of green pounds or dollars. And you could use those with other people in the community. In America, it's developed quite extraordinary. In each country, each area develops in a particularly different way. So that I think if I was doing it, I would think about closing down my shop and using the customer base as the customers for my Let's program. Now, in addition, I think what I would be thinking about would be, for example, in Japan, during the 90s, farmers tried to cut out the markup of the middleman by selling directly, and they got together cooperatives whereby you could buy food at a very considerable discount. Now, I think, and I'm very interested that Avon Cosmetics, for example, is increasing their sales force, direct selling, and I would think that I would be looking to manufacturers who wanted direct contact, direct selling to the local community with the service and so on, if this was required, attached. That's the way I'd be moving, customer base, reducing my own costs, and using a wider source of services to offer this customer base.
And the result?
The result would be, from my point of view, would be a considerable economy, because I would be able, I needn't produce stock, I needn't have an attendant, a shop assistant, I would be keeping better hours, and I think if I was successful, then I would be able to encourage other areas to use this system, and maybe use a system of franchising, which is using a ready-made setup to offer to other people.
Now, how can small businesses today know what's going on in the world?
This is a very considerable difficulty, because, for example, you might behave quite differently in a recession, or, as a lot of people are forecasting, actually inflation.
Yeah.
Therefore, my colleagues and I in the United States, we have a little group called the NOW Group, and we're thinking of setting up a very compact little advisory service which people can access on the web, and give people views on what is actually happening, what are the most important issues, and maybe the economic opportunities of doing various things.
Wonderful. That, I think, is the main, that's what concludes our interview. Now, we'll cut it there, but basically, while it's rolling, if you think about anything else that we want to add, I mean, that would add up to a nice 6 minutes on.
That's about right. I would think also it should be accompanied by a summary.
A written summary, yeah.
Yes, a recent summary.
Written one, yeah.
Yes, that people can just run off, and if they want a sort of aid memoir of ideas.
Yeah, yeah. But I think that would be a very good little example, wouldn't it? What we want to do.
Well, it's fundamental.
It's just, yeah.
It's using it's using their skills.